An entrepreneur, activist, politician, and philanthropist, Dr. Joyce Banda was also the president of the Republic of Malawi between 2012 and 2014. She was Malawi's first female president and Africa's second. Dr. Joyce Banda is a champion for the rights of women, children, the disabled, and other marginalized groups. Banda's most brazen decisions have been for austerity's sake. She sold off a 15 million presidential jet, cut her own salary by 30%, and dismissed her cabinet in the midst of corruption allegations. Her austerity measures have helped lift monetary suspensions from Western donors to Malawi and restore cash injections from the IMF. Let's talk with Dr. Joyce Banda. Thank you, Dr. Joyce Banda, for joining us.
Thank you.
In these unprecedented times of COVID-19 pandemic, how is Malawi faring with its 3,000 cases?
Yeah, we are overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed, but we are also very, very grateful for the support that we are receiving. There is an initiative at the African Union in Africa where the envoy there is trying to assist Malawi as quickly as possible, access funds from Afri-Exim Bank for COVID-19, for masks, for protective clothing, for our nurses, for allowances, for capacity to admit many, many people. But you will recall that in Malawi, from February all the way to June, we only had 4 people dead and about 200 cases.
Only 4? Okay.
Only 4 people dead, and Malawi was thinking that we've now hit the plateau. I was of that view myself. But then in the month of April, May, we started receiving returnees from other countries coming back to Malawi, those that couldn't stay, particularly in South Africa. And so with people coming and with borders open, we started seeing now an increase of infections, which is what has brought about this surge now.
So the border.
So we are struggling with it. It's still open, yeah. And in fact, another lot arrived last week. The other 10 trucks that came weeks before, almost 50 people of those were infected already when they came. So it is that spread and lacking the capacity to restrict their movements when they return, because they're returning home. Because of the situation in South Africa, where it is shut down and they've lost their jobs, they decide they want to come home, but they are coming home infected, some of them. So when they come home, there's no capacity here to restrict them. And so they go about, and then so it spreads out. So it is a general problem. A lot of people are getting infected, and it is at a stage now where government is having a lot of initiatives now, social distancing and the restrictions, quarantines, and then capacity in hospitals, and making sure we get enough masks, and also making sure that our nurses, our frontline soldiers, who are our nurses, the hospital staff, are getting enough protective clothing and incentives to keep them in the job.
Let me ask you regarding the new president, Lazarus Chakwera, elected at the end of June and former pastor of the Assemblies of God. He declared recently 3 days of fasting and prayer to stem the spread of the virus. What do you think about this melt between religion and politics?
You must understand that that is Malawi. This country of Malawi, that has nothing much to do about him. That has so much to do about Malawians. We are a very, very spiritual or religious nation. So for us, while we are observing all the other advices that we must observe, for example, social distancing and so on, prayer matters in our country. So he realized that that's what we ought to do. In fact, even without him declaring those 3 days of prayer, people were already praying non-stop.
Okay, spiritual country. The opposition is accusing the government for relaxity during campaigns and negative messages on COVID-19. What are your comments?
No, but equally, I don't like getting into politics. Why? Because it is the same period of when the people started being ferried from South Africa. So if you come in the country, it depends on who you are talking. If you talk to the government, they will say that this government, which was in opposition then during the campaign, will tell you that the bringing in of people, the opening of the borders, of allowing people to walk in and out of Malawi, caused what we are going through now. Now, if you ask those, they will politicize and say, oh, because you went about campaigning without observing the restrictions that ought to go with COVID-19. What you must understand is that the campaign for an election of June happened between January and June, because the elections were in June. But between January and June, the infections here were 200 people, 200 total of cases, and 4 people died. So when did the campaigning affect the numbers we are going through now?
Yeah, compared to Europe, of course, it seems like thing. Let's get back to you and your incredible journey. When did you step into your leadership role, and how do you describe your leadership style?
I started my leadership role all my life, because if you are talking about leadership role into politics, then I don't know where to start from, because I have always known, as I have always said, as I have studied and researched and even written a book titled From Day One, which says leaders are born, as far as I'm concerned, and it is scientifically proven, and you can go online and read it. They say that people are born with 30% leadership traits. That 70% has to be added on by society. That is by going to school, by community, by tertiary education, mentoring. All that builds the 70% for you to become the leader you were meant to be. So I knew at 8 years old that I was born to be a leader. I was told at 8 years old that people noticed that there was something about me that showed that I was going to grow up to be a leader. And if you ask Ellen Sirleaf, the other president in Africa, she'll tell you the same. Most African women, mostly women that have become leaders, they will tell you that they knew for the longest time that they were going to become leaders. So I knew for the longest time what leader I didn't know. I didn't know that I was going to be leader of a country, but I was going to be a leader, maybe in the church, maybe in a bank, maybe in a hospital, but a leader I was going to be. So my journey, if you look at what I have championed in my life, all of them have emerged from personal experience. So it just happened automatically that at 14 years old, I had a best friend. She was going to a village school. I was going to the urban school. She was brighter than me, first position every class. We were both selected to the best high schools. She went to another school. I went to another school. She went one term. She didn't go back because the family was so poor. They couldn't raise the $6 that she required to go back. I went on and on and on because I was privileged to have a father who was working, and went all the way to State House. So it was at 14 years old that I became aware of the injustice of this world, that there are so many girls. In Africa now, it's 39 million that are not going to school through no fault of their own. So I have always known that when a girl child is given the right opportunities, the right education, and if she was born with 30% leadership traits, she would become a leader. So I always knew that. So for me, I didn't start out seeking elected office. I started out at age 31, looking at how to help others. When Chris said my best friend didn't go back to school, I made up my mind at 14 years old that I would spend my life assisting other girls go to school. So as I'm talking to you now, 6,000 girls, 6,500 girls have received education because of what I have done. Now, when I was...
What has been your biggest challenge as a woman leader? You talk about this 6,000 girl. You are a reference for your feminist struggle in society dominated by men. So from your experiences as female leader, what advice would you give to an emerging woman leader in Africa?
Yeah, the challenges are many. The abuse is a lot. But that is not only happening to African women, or women all over the world. Huge challenges. But perhaps what I should
We
say...
got a problem with the connection. I can't hear you anymore. Yes?
But what I can say, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can
Can
hear
you hear me?
Yes, now it's okay.
Yeah, but what I can say is that what is important now is for all African women to realize that somebody has to do it. So we can't chicken out, we can't shy away, because we are having a lot of challenges. Because the challenges that women face to enter politics are: one, patriarchy; two, lack of economic capacity to compete equally with men in order to go to parliament. Number three, it is the abuse, the media, the harassment that we get, and so forth. We find that most girls don't have role models. And five is political will, because you find that in other countries, the government has put in place measures to enable, to support women to stand for elected office, or indeed affirmative action to support women to get into leadership. But I must point out, before I go far, that Africa has done better than most continents in as far as having women in leadership is concerned, because historically we were leaders already. We were princesses, we were queens, we were emperors on the continent of Africa before colonization. And Africa has had 5 female presidents: Liberia, Malawi, Central Africa Republic, Mauritius, and now Ethiopia. So we have had 5. Some continents have not had 1.
Countries on Africa, so we need to improve this.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's what I'm telling you. But tell me how many female presidents America has had. Tell me about other countries, how many presidents. So what I am saying is why we don't want to discourage ourselves that things are not working, because they are working. We have had 5 presidents, but before even colonization, we were leaders of our nations. And the country with the highest number of women in parliament in the world is on the continent of Africa, in Rwanda. So while we are saying we have a lot of challenges, that we must draw our strength, and we must be proud of what we have achieved.
True. You talk about politics, so I want to refer to media that reports that during your days, there was much plunder of finances and continued till the reign of Peter Mutharika. There have been several arrests already since Dr. Chakwera took over. So what leadership can you give?
Yeah, the plunder in government here did not start 2012 when I became president. It started in 2005. Because 2005, a new system, a new financial management system was installed in government. And so since then, before I became president, we have now got audit reports that show that 577 billion kwacha was stolen, $360 million, I think. So the period that I was president, 30 billion was stolen. And I made sure that if you steal under my watch, when I am in office, you are going to go to prison. So during my time, 72 people were arrested. Now, come this time around, now, this president, Dr. President Chakwera, decided that he was going to do the same as I had done. That when now he's in office, he would not allow anybody, just like I did not allow anybody to get away with it. This government has decided that anybody who took government money shall pay for it, shall go to jail. So those are the arrests that you have heard about. But what I'm being told, the amount of money are huge that have been gone missing. And it is my wish that President Chakwera and his vice president, his government, continue to go after those people that are being named to have stolen, because it is possible some of the money is around, or even that which they have externalized must be followed up and brought back to Malawi.
This is the reason why you support him?
That's the reason why I support him, is because number one promise was one, to fight corruption. Number two, the rule of law, to observe the rule of law. Number three, to be fair to all Malawians.
Mm-hmm. In May 2019, Lazarus Chakwera rejected the official results, which with just 160,000 votes behind, gave the victory to incumbent President Peter Mutharika. 9 months later, he succeeded in having the ballot cancelled because of massive fraud. And on June 23rd, he was finally able to take his revenge by winning 58.57% of the votes at the end of an unprecedented streak in sub-Saharan Africa. Only Kenya had so far experienced an election to replayed in 2017, but without change of issue. This courage of constitutional court demonstrates the enormous progress of Malawi. What more do you expect from your country? What are the big challenges Malawi faces?
What the big challenge that Malawi faces now is the state of the life of Malawians, the poverty because of the money that has been siphoned. Mm-hmm. And so his first agenda, the president, will be to give people hope that things will be okay, to implement some of the programs that are the pro-poor agenda that he has, to fast track the implementation of those. For example, he promised Malawians that he's going to assist to help Malawians buy cheap agricultural inputs. Number two, he promised Malawians that he shall hold everybody and anybody accountable. Those that have stolen will go to jail. Number three, he promised Malawians that he shall reform the government structures and the government systems. And he also promised Malawians that he shall fight poverty. So, and then observe rule of law, strengthen governance institutions, make sure that he doesn't interfere with the running of the Anti-Corruption Bureau, as well as the parliament and the other arms of government. So what I must say,
but yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but you are talking about a lot of hope, to give hope and to promise. But what is the strategy behind
this? The president has been in office for 3 weeks.
Yeah, sure.
So right now, what he must give is hope, because he made promises. Mm-hmm. And he must be seen to be taking steps towards implementing those promises. Number one on that list was fight corruption, but you are the one who has told me that he has already started arresting people.
True.
So what gives people hope is when you start to implement the programs that you promised. Now, right now, they have already made orders for the fertilizers to provide the cheap inputs. Right now, he's putting in place that they've already started meetings on reforming the civil service in Malawi, because that's what he promised. So what gives people hope is the indication, the clear indication on their part that they're implementing the promises they made to the people of Malawi.
Huh. Is there anything else you would like to share that hasn't been addressed?
Yeah, what I would like to share is, when people get into office, especially after such a difficult fight, where you go for an election, you know you have won, but somebody has stolen the election, and you go and challenge, and unprecedented. It has never happened in Malawi, in Africa even, because in Kenya, those elections were nullified before swearing in, before the president was inaugurated. In Malawi, this president was back in office for 1 year after stealing the election. And it is not the first time the election has been stolen. Exactly the evidence that we have now, that the evidence is 2014. Exactly 2014. So it was the second time. So now, what I must say finally, is that the world, especially Africa, must draw some lessons from the country called Malawi. That when you are in leadership, you must never take people for granted. That there are countries on this continent of Africa with a judiciary that is not corrupt. that this country called Malawi can run an election in 4 weeks, a credible election without foreign observers, but just on our own, and come up with a credible election. What has happened in Africa now is that people, ordinary people, are holding their leaders accountable. So any leader that thinks that they are going to abuse their people, they are not going to listen when their people are talking, they will be brought down. That is the lesson we all must draw. Those of us who want to be in leadership in Africa, we must realize that the power has shifted, and the power has shifted to the ordinary people. So if you are stuck in your state house and you want to be arrogant, and not listen to the people, and to be autocratic, the people will bring you down. It happened in Malawi.
It happened in Malawi. The interview will be reviewed on 54eta.com and in our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.